Well, what's your story this morning? Thank you very much for choosing the chapter of Wake Up on MetroFM 5 a.m. all the way to 9. It's time for us to look at Property Explained with Tim Akinusi joining us. And of course, this week on Property Explained, we'll be discussing key considerations when looking to buy property with a friend, a family member, colleagues, or perhaps maybe that spouse of yours. We'll also explore maybe just some key steps to follow when purchasing property jointly and to ensure a successful property transaction and partnership. And this is very important, right? Tim, good morning.
Good morning.
How's it walking down the dungeon that we call our Tim Studios?
It was going down memory lane. It was surreal. I saw a phone booth.
Oh, so you were here at one of those school visits, like
Basically.
back in your school day. Yeah.
So Tim, let's jump right in, right? One of the biggest mistakes that people often make when buying property together, and this is speaking not only to myself but many who are listening right now, buying property together.
Yeah. So I think firstly, it's obviously a popular move, right? Because of all the benefits. You know, you are sharing the cost together, you can get more house, etc. But often the biggest challenge is that there isn't enough transparency up front about, look, we want to buy this thing together. What's your financial situation and what's mine? And to share that information between the two parties to get a clear understanding of, can we actually do this over the long term? Then the second thing is to say, okay, let's agree who is going to, handle which expenses, right? Because there's going to be levies to be paid, there's going to be bond costs, etc., right? So that's mistake number two, is that people often don't have that sort of candid conversation. And then thirdly is they don't have a plan as to when things go wrong, because it's obviously a 30-year journey and a lot can go wrong in 2 years, so it's to say, what is that plan when you lose your job, what are we going to do, how do we pivot and how do we keep this up? And those are the three core mistakes that people make when buying property, in a joint venture.
Right. So then, what is the right thing to do then, Tim?
So the right thing to do is it's best to handle it in the context of a very committed relationship, like say a marriage, right? Because there's definitely a lot of other things at play that would keep you guys together. There's a lot of other bigger considerations. So you've got to be in a position to say, because we're committed to this, we know we can make it work. And chances are, within a context of a marriage, or let me just say a secure relationship, you are more familiar with each other and you are more willing to be as open as you need to be to reveal financial details of each other, as opposed to a friendship or business partnership where people don't typically want to do those things.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to bring up is contribution. So let's say we buy the house together, Kuta and our marriage, and we've submitted our proofs of income, etc. And we get the bond approved, etc. But I'm the one who's paying on the repayments.
Right.
Kuta's not paying.
Right.
Is she still liable for the property, or is it about whoever pays for it owns it?
Come on.
So that's it's a really contentious thing, right? So the context is this: is that even if you came in and started the application process and you declared to the bank that, listen, I'm not working, so I don't I want to be joint owner in the asset, but I'm not going to contribute monetary towards it, right? The bank will still look at your credit profile and say, are you good for it? Right. So the bank will still say, have you responsibly used credit in the past?
I see.
And if it's a no, then the bank will decline both applications.
Sure.
So with that context in mind, even if you are not responsible for the repayments, right, you would still be liable for whatever debt is on that unit.
Sure.
Yeah.
My gosh, this is really deep because some of us aren't married, but we are in a situation like you're describing, right? And taking a lot out of this. But otherwise, let's talk about, yes, the relationship no longer exists. What are the steps that we take? Because sure, there are many people who I might ask Mo, please can you buy me this property?
Right.
But I will pay the installments into your account, but it is mine. There's situations like that.
Yep.
Friendship breaks as well. What happens when we want to break this existence of this joint property venture that we've gone into?
Right. So very common, right? That happens all the time. And people often feel like they are trapped, like they don't know what to do when things haven't gone the way you had anticipated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's actually a very easy fix because there is an act for it. It's a Section 57 act in the deeds registry where you can apply to actually have the co-owner removed and to have the debt on placed onto yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, and if there's a bond over it, right, you could actually go to the bank and apply for what's called an endorsement loan, where the bank effectively will assess you as an individual and say you're good to pay, and you want your
Sure.
co-owner removed from it.
Yeah.
So they will then endorse that, and you can then take over the entire property.
That's interesting. And is there a cost to this process? Because
Yeah.
as much as there's a cost to purchasing property, I mean, obviously there's differences if it's off plan or not, but
Sure.
there's always a cost. So when you now unwind the co-ownership at the deeds office, is there a cost?
So there is a cost because there's an attorney involved.
Exactly.
To lodge that, right? But it's not as big as like the first transaction when you effectively register the property. But there's a cost to it because attorneys cost money, and you've got to consult them, and they've got to go and do the administration at the deeds office. Yeah.
Right. And in terms of family, the same rules apply, because yes, I'm not married to my sister, but hey, maybe we decided, hey, let's do this property thing together, and now somewhere along the line there's a family feud and there's a line drawn in the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same rules will apply, and those common mistakes also do apply, especially when it's family, because of the nature of it, right? It's very personal, very emotive, and people often gloss over that thing of let's sit down and let's actually face the reality of years down the line. Let's say we're not cool anymore. How do we manage this? You know? Yeah, and I think it can be handled, in a responsible way, but you just have to have those tough conversations up front, and then you can ensure that there's a good outcome.
I think
down the
let's
line.
also just take it back to the proper steps to be able to actually get a property jointly with somebody. Do you also prefer it to be done on your own? Yes, let's say you've got the financial means, or is it advised to do it with somebody? There's more benefit to that than doing it alone.
Yeah, so the reason why people would do it jointly is primarily so that you can afford a lot more property.
Sure.
Right. And if that isn't the reason why you want to do it, it's actually best to just keep it in your name, because you are the one who's responsible for the debt, etc.
Yeah.
And it just makes it a lot easier. It doesn't mean you can't still have other contracts that talk about your stake in the property, if it's paid off, etc., etc.
Sure.
But to keep the administration low, if finances are not a challenge, buy it on your own. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to recap on another point for clarity, even if he or she isn't working, their name can still be on the property.
Absolutely.
Right.
The name can still be on it. The banks will still want your declaration that yes, you may not be responsible financially for it, but they will still look up your ID at the bureau and actually say, hey, how have you conducted yourself in the past when taking on debt?
Yeah, that question is specifically for those situations. You don't even work.
Yeah.
Oksalayo, my name is on the deed.
Tim, I always enjoy Property Explained,
Yeah.
and I know we never have enough time to unpack it all. So if anybody would like to engage you on this topic and any other property-related matter, how do we find you?
Please look us up on mortgagemarket.co.za. We offer you access to home loans from the top 7 banks in the country, and we give you 5,000 cash back, which helps you in an economy like the one that we are in. And you can reach out to us on Instagram. We're on mortgage.market, and Facebook as well.
Done deal. Tim Akinusi, CEO and founder of Mortgage Market. Check them out, and we'll be back again next week with Property Explained. Still to come, we continue with phone line traffic, whatever is on your mind. Maybe this conversation also spoke to you greatly. And we have soundbite stories and more after 8.